Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday night Radical Geek live chat. I see a few people have joined, and I know more people plan to join, but we've had a lot of different YouTubes and live streams and other calls going on this evening, so hopefully they'll catch up and join us later. Give me a thumbs up if you're seeing the actual live and you can hear me all right. I want to make sure that I'm talking loud enough. But otherwise, welcome. And tonight I thought it would be fun to, even though we've had a lot of coffee talk, this time for our coffee talk, I would talk a little bit about another great pleasure of mine, the blooming tea. If you haven't seen these, they are a really pretty flower sort of tea, very mild. And they come from the Yunnan province in China. Thanks, Warden, and thanks, Sonia. So they come from the Yunnan province, and the tea itself is usually a silver needle, and they pick just the tips for this particular tea, and the rest of the leaves are saved for other parts. Haha, very funny. Hungry Keith asked if I moved, but yeah. So I've been deep diving and learned some new tricks. I'm hoping to get there. I still have some things to work out, but we're trying. The next thing is going to try and get some, I don't know, a better looking, a second view or something like that, so that the glow on the devices is not so bad, and so that I can show you things up close. But yeah, so back to the blooming tea. If you haven't seen it, it's super, super cool, and I'm looking forward to demonstrating it. But the way they make it is they take all of these needle tips, and like I said, normally it's silver needle, but it's really branched out into some green teas, and very rarely, but you do find some up on the market that are darker teas. But they pick these silver needle teas and they bundle it all up together, and then they actually bind it and sew it into a bundle, and then spread the leaves out and open and run it through a drying cycle. So when they do that, then while that drying cycle is going, they actually have this super cool where they take also now dried flowers like the jasmine flowers or dandelion, and with the dandelion they'll use both the actual flower and the leaves. Sometimes it's lavender flowers, they use the dried lavender, or sometimes the whole bloom, and they actually stitch that together, and then they stitch it back into the middle of the bundle, take the tea leaves and wrap it all around the flowers, and then they take that whole bundle and wrap it up super extra tight in cheesecloth and squeeze it down into a tight little ball and run it through another drying cycle. And when they do that, they come together into this one giant tea ball. And for comparison, some other blooming teas, they're not quite the same. I'm going to drop that right into my pot, and we'll talk about this in a second. Other blooming teas would be, here they are, would be like jasmine dragon pearls. Thanks, Caboodle Brie, or Caboodle Bry. I will get it right. They said it wrong for so long that it's stuck in my brain. But would be the dragon pearls, and they don't bloom the same way that this flowering tea does, but they do unfurl and open, and it's a similar process. I swear, I don't know if you'll be able to see them because they're so tiny. But we're going to try. Well, not so much. It's a little too glowy. There we go. So you can see they're little teeny tiny tight balls, and those are rolled by hands just in the fingers. They take the jasmine tea leaves, the jasmine and the tea leaves, and they rub it in their fingers into the tight little balls and dry them. So it is a big tea ball. But with these, they are, again, hand rolled, and that is the other thing that makes the blooming teas and the little pearls really special, is it's not machinable at this point in time. I'm sure it's coming, but at this point in time, it's not a machinable, so everything that you get are handmade products overseas. It's important to note that because it's done by the tea farms, but generally it's not subject. It's not like manufacturing with the slave wages. These are the tea farmers, the tea artisans. It's a very specialized skill that they have. Hey there, Renee. Good to see you for joining us. Hi, Susan. And hi, Attila. So the blooming teas. We laugh. I say hi, Attila, but he's actually upstairs. But let's see. The other thing to know about these, with the tea balls, they are very gentle in flavor, but they're also really easy to go wrong. And sometimes, like this one in particular, I pulled it out. It's not the same brand as this container. It's Kite Kitchen brand, so we'll see. Regardless, it should still taste fine, and unfortunately this doesn't show up well on the camera at all, but this one is Flowering Tea by Tea Bloom. It's a green tea tea ball, and let me see if we can get it. Not so much. It's a little, there you go, sort of. But you can buy all of these on Amazon, although it's better to buy direct from the company. And they have a lot of varieties. And I see that Jerry's saying that they have a lot of jasmine tea, that it's a staple in their area. It's a staple in the Far East, Orient areas. That's true. And they actually have that because they believe there's a lot of health benefits and properties to it. So, oh, Karen's riding the bike. It's so cold. I don't know. Well, I don't know what it's like where you are, but I am inside for the winter. There will be no more outdoor bike riding until spring. Oh, and Hungry Heath mentions that he may have found me one more subscriber. So that's totally cool. I would totally love to see another coffee vendor. Welcome, Nan. Glad to see you join. And hi, Christine. I see that you have joined as well. And so from there, I am losing my place. As you know, I keep my cheat sheets here so that I don't lose my place as much. If you're ever wondering why that happens, not only am I highly distractible just in general, but when I had the brain surgery and the seizures, it did impact my ability to have a stronger focus. So sometimes it's easy to get that off the rails, and so I try really hard to organize myself to remind me what I'm supposed to be doing. So, oh, and Jerry mentions his parents were born in Indonesia. That's super cool. So, but yeah, and probably it's a good time to mention, when I mentioned that they believe there's a lot of health benefits, I am not a medical professional. Anything that I say here is worth, the whole Verizon 0.002 cents. It is only my opinion, and I'm only parroting things that other people have told me, and they are also not doctors. So, don't change your medical procedures or treat yourself with something because of something you heard on YouTube. Don't take advice from YouTube streams. That's not the right place. It's a nice place to start, a good place to get your own research started, or people to ask, well, like, where do I even look for this? But yeah, don't think that if someone tells you that if you drink tons of green tea that you're going to cure your cancer, even though a lot of people will tell you that, because no. Now, are there studies in progress about how certain teas may be impacting cancer and cancer treatments, how it may become an innovative extractive ingredient in the future towards cancer ingredients. Yes, there are lots of studies about that. Some of them have been very promising, but none of them have been conclusive. So, oh, and Jerry has mentioned about his mother and stepmother, so having a lot of Asian influence in his life. So, well, thanks, Renee, for a very nice compliment there. So, now, I would like to have my tea this evening. So, I am going to go ahead and put the water on this tea bloom. What I have done is brought my electric kettle down here, and I have heated my tea to 175 degrees. It's the one time that I like it a bit better, that I like my electric kettle better than the gooseneck that I use with my coffee, where I need a more controlled pour. Here, it's important to have accuracy in temperature. If you overheat the water and you put boiling water on your tea, which lots of people tell you to do, don't do that. That's what makes the bitter. That and over steeping are all things that impact it. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to pour my water in there. I like a clear teapot for blooming tea, because that's what makes it super cool to be able to see that. Hopefully it works great, and if it doesn't, well, then we'll just have some nice flavored water. Either way, it's cool. So I'm just gonna, we'll see if it takes. The other thing is I will put the cover on to keep the warmth in there. But if you could see it, unfortunately not as much here, but it is starting to expand a little bit in there. Now, one thing about this teapot, I bought a combo. It's a clear teapot. It has the little lid with the inset, but it also came with a filter, so you can use it. It's not exclusive to just the flower. You can also use your loose leaf tea in there as well. However, I actually have a large teapots for my regular tea. I buy those from Tea Forte. They are awesome, and I find them better for that application. So I try to not be impatient, and I try not to want to poke the tea ball in there. Like sometimes I didn't even bring down a little chopstick or anything, because really all that does is make the tea loosen up everywhere, and then you wind up with leaves in your little glass. So, oh, thanks Christina for the feedback on the sound. Now, while this hopefully opens, give it a little shake. I know, I can't help it, but much like the little coffee that I showed you where I was using the insulated glass wall cups, this is the same preferred cup for teas, and that's all across the board for teas. You'll notice when you find teacups, they're always kind of small, and there's a reason that you don't use your big honking mug for a cup of tea, and that is for the taste and the aroma that you will have with the tea. So you guys, it is spreading, although it looks rather monstrous rather than exciting tea flower. But you can see it now a little bit in the camera where it's growing. Like I said, some tea balls are amazing and they bloom and they get that perfect flower, and other tea balls not so much. So I knew that was a risk with going with the one that was not the brand that I've used in the past. But I wanted to try this one because it has jasmine and a couple other flowers in there that I was really interested in. So when I mentioned that about the taste and the flavor, so I'm pretty sure most people have heard of a sommelier. Usually you associate them with wine, but they're actually tea sommeliers, and they take classes and get certified, and they learn so much about tea. It's really intense, and I am not a sommelier. But normally they're not, even though they are certified as sommeliers, they're actually more often called a tea connoisseur, which is surprising to hear that that connoisseur is the term that they use for something, because it's as a title, but because a lot of people self-reference themselves as connoisseurs just in the general world. I'm a coffee connoisseur, or I'm a real estate connoisseur, you know. But the tea sommeliers, they are intensely serious. Oh, and Jerry mentions that he bought Patty a lovely tea set, and that Patty gets the loose leaf tea. Shelley, I saw that you bought tea, and I was really curious about the blend that you got, because I saw little purple flecks in there, and I knew that we talked earlier about possibly getting chais, but I was wondering if it had lavender in it. I'd love to hear about what it was that you're brewing. Oh, thanks for the compliment on the background. I really love exploring all of that. Also, not only am I thirsty in general, but just like the coffee and pretty much every beverage, you always want to serve it with some water. Yes, and the warden mentions that they got a heart infuser for their tea. I loved it. It was so great. I have one that's shaped like a star, I believe. And I don't like it because the tea leaves get stuck in the point, so I want to find something with a different shape. But because I have so many with the infusers, yeah. So it's rather floaty, but you can kind of see how much bigger the tea has gotten in there and how much it's expanded. So it's definitely coming, and you can see, not as well on the camera, but it's definitely the color of the tea itself has changed. So it's brewing. Because they put so much tea and flour into the tea ball, you can double brew it. And probably what we'll do is, after I serve my little cup, I'm gonna pour it off into my thermo flask and throw another round of the hot water on it to get a second brew out of it. Okay, so the other thing is, like everything else, you can pair tea with foods. A hearty tea like an oolong, or if you get a strong black tea, that's what you're going to have with your spicier foods. That's why at Indian restaurants, when you've got like heavy, extra spicy, creamy things, they'll be giving you cheese. They'll be giving you cheese. They'll be giving you a chai tea. So, so the teapot actually has a tea bloom, and I don't want to open another one because I don't want it to get so much air exposure. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it from the package, but they're, let's see, maybe. They're really big bundled balls of tea. So, and I'll repeat that since more people have come in a little bit later. But again, they take the tips of the tea leaves from the Yunnan province, bundle them, dry them, so then they spread it out, and then they hand stitch in the flowers, rewrap it, and then squeeze it down super tight to shape it with cheesecloth and dry it again. So, so, and then Jerry shares that Patty doesn't like lavender or really fruit flavored stuff, but is a fan of the black ones. So, and Jerry mentions that he's a fan of the Earl Grey, just like Captain Picard. And then the warden says they didn't find chai last night. So, I like some chais, but I really like it when they are extra spicy. If they don't have spicy, and I don't like things like chocolate chai. I don't know what it is about it, but I don't like that blend of the flavors. A lot of people are really crazy about it. I know lavender is a touchy flavor for a lot of people because it's so easy to over extract the flavor from the lavender and you get soap flavor. So now back to the tea bloom tea. Because it's a gentle green. Yep, exactly. So, but because it's a gently flavored tea, like a lot of people complain that they can't even taste it. But it's a really soft flavor, and it's an aromatic tea. So a really relaxing sort of thing. You're not gonna go and have this sitting down in a restaurant with your steak dinner. It will totally overwhelm the tea. This is a social tea or an evening time relaxation kind of ritual, and that's kind of how I enjoy it. Is on a time like this, or off on myself on a Saturday evening, just to brew it, and you sit down and you take away some of the stress from the week. It pairs really nicely if you can get sashimi, but right now I live in Ohio and it's winter, so I'm not going anywhere and getting a nice little plate of sashimi that is remotely delicious. So what it does pair nicely with, though, I have prepared for myself over here, and that is very mild cheeses. I've got some mozzarella pearls. I made some very mild cheddar and almond crackers. Excuse me. And I've got a Gouda. Just your regular mini Gouda. And 3 little blackberries. It's too bad that Two Crazy Ketos isn't here, because I know they always talk about overindulging in the berries. And so here we are. I have 3. And that is all I'm going to eat, so it'll be just right. The little crackers, this is not even 1 full serving, and it's it actually is a Two Crazy Ketos recipe, I believe, where you just grind together in the food processor the cheddar cheese, the almond flour, and a little bit of baking powder, and bake it off. So those are all things that'll pair nicely with this because of how gentle the flavor is. It really helps highlight it. I mentioned earlier that a lot of people believe in the medicinal properties of certain teas, and there is a lot of theories around green tea. A lot of people say it aids in digestion. A lot of people say it helps with a ton of different ailments, but none of those things have been proven out yet. And I say yet because there are studies in progress, a lot of them really very progressive and forward thinking, with some pretty good positive results so far. But with this tea, what has been proven is in the psychology realm, where actually the rice doesn't go as well with it for some reason. It's definitely just the fish part. But I personally don't mind just the fish part. So I will say that I did actually put just a teeny sprinkle of salt on my mozzarella pearls, because that's what makes them not be as flavorless. And between the little bit of salt and the gentle flavor of the tea, that really brings it together, and they highlight each other. So the psychological aspect, because it's a sensory experience, and because there's a lot of ritual surrounding tea, rituals and meditation and activating and using your various senses, taking that time is actually something that does affect your neuron transmitters. Well, I'm having a moment there. Sorry, folks. And so it actually does help with that serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline cycle. Instead of amping you up, though, it's calming you down. So pretty groovy. I think stuff like that's really nice. And I will take that back to this little cup. They do that so your tea doesn't cool off as fast, and so you can have that experience with it. I mentioned that I was going to pour it off into my thermal flask to keep it warm. But as you can see, I've got just a very small amount, and they do that so that when you experience your tea, you get the nice little scent and the aroma that leads up to you. And then as you take your drink, you give it a nice long slurp and you let it linger in your mouth. And it's something that tea experts or sommeliers or aficionados or enthusiasts will tell you about, is that some teas, they talk about it having texture. It's a really, really small difference if you're not that experienced. I will say though, I do find it very soothing. I will tell you that they also say that when you have colds, the reason they recommend tea, a lot of people drink hearty black tea, which is actually pretty hard on your digestion, which is not going to do nothing if you've got a lot of congestion or phlegm buildup. These are very gentle and mild on your digestive system. And the jasmine and the dandelion, there are studies out there, both in JAMA and the American Medical Association's journals, showing that drinking jasmine, chamomile, and dandelion and echinacea are all sorts of herbal infusions that you can drink that does actually thin the phlegm and soothe your sore throat a little bit. It's not a replacement for medicine. You still need your medicine. You still need your antibiotics. Don't let anyone tell you that the antibiotic properties of the green tea is going to cure your bronchitis. That's not the way it works. But it will make you feel better for a little bit and let you get some rest, because it'll help ease up some of the phlegm choking you. I will also say that a lot of people do like sweetener in these. I personally feel that because the flavor is so mild, blooming teas are a non-sweet tea. So if you're looking for that sweet flavor that you would get with a chai or something like that, where you would put your 2 sugars and your milk, this is not the tea for that. For a tea like that, you definitely want to go with a heartier thing like an oolong or a puree tea or any number of other sorts. Be mindful of not putting dairy in teas that have citrus in it. You can accidentally curdle the milk. Doesn't happen every time, but enough times that people make note of it. And Christina mentions that I am giving them a lot of items to add to their Christmas list. Mischief accomplished. So I am going to go ahead and have one of these pearls. Which, by the way, essential. Teeny tiny fork. It's probably not essential, but I feel like that's part of the experience of having a small plate or teeny tiny utensils. There's no rhyme or reason or any particular reason to have them. You don't need them or anything like that, but I find that they're hilarious fun. So, I can tell you that this tea ball is not as attractive as some others, and I'm a little disappointed about that. It sort of just broke apart, and the flower is actually still just right smack in the middle and didn't really bloom. So, it is what it is. I'm going to set my kettle again. Actually, I'm going to add some more water to it before. Yes, Jerry, I agree. A lot of people feel the very same way as Patty, that that sweetener is absolute tea blasphemy. And on if you ever watch other tea YouTubes and you go down into the comments, I know what they say about reading the comments, but I love it. Every single minute of it. It's like the Jerry Springer of the internet, reading the comments. And, but if you get into there and you listen to people, my gosh, they are all about arguing about the tea and sweetener, no sweetener, milk, no milk. Whew. And all I can say is enjoy the tea the way you like it the most. Let's see. And take my, it's a little fiddly there with the thermostat on my kettle. I will say that if you get an electric kettle, spend the extra little bit to get yourself a one with a thermostat. I actually have two, one that I use for travel and one that we have for home. Yeah, so you can see what a disappointment. It just made like a nice little blob in the bottom and didn't actually bloom. But I can see how it was bundled together. And the taste on it was really nice. So I guess that's probably what actually counts. Oh, see? And there we go. Hungry Heath, stirring the pot, getting into the comments and starting bullshit. Unsweet tea is just dirty water. Au contraire, my friend. I disagree. There's a time and place for tea with sweetener and a time and place when no sweetener is the answer. And that is part of it with the food pairings. Really nice with the cracker. My crackers are a little soft and harder to eat because I didn't thin them out enough. So they're not crunchy crackers, but that's okay because I didn't need that for this evening. So I'm just taking a moment there to enjoy it. So I do love some teas with sweet. I'll tell you what, I love a good strong black tea with a couple of those. I actually still have it down here from the coffee talk. The whole earth sugar cubes. Let's see. Oh, look at, they go transparent because it's green. So yeah, their box is not actually that attractive. It's just green, but the green screen puts the background on it. Woo! So, and those are whole earth stevia leaf monk fruit cubes. If you weren't on that, I'm going to try and show you one. I don't know if it will work. But, let's see. Yeah, sorta. But you can see it looks like an actual little sugar cube. And I really, in case you haven't noticed, get off on the little novelty of things. So having it be like a sugar cube, even though it's just some stevia and monk fruit, really excites me. I love it. Oh, man, that blackberry was phenomenal. So, and Renee mentions that she's never been a fan of the southern sweet tea because it's so, also known as syrup. So, but, yes, so many people I know absolutely cannot live without their sweet tea. And quite frankly, I did not grow up like that. We did not drink sweet tea in the Southwest. In the summertime, you would never have something so sickly sweet out there in, your 108 degrees. So it just, was not something you had. And it was so when I first had sweet tea, oh my God, I could not believe it. It was just horrendous. So, I am not a fan. I do like less sweet. So, I think my water didn't actually work, so I'm going to run it through the cycle again. So, what else? Actually, That's right. I wanted to mention to you guys because I was talking about some of the studies that are publishing in the medical journals. Uh, One of the studies currently in progress is super cool, and I think it makes me feel like this tea could eventually be like a good pairing with ketogenesis, because the tea, green teas especially, even though all tea is basically the same, it's just roasted or dried to different levels, and from different regions, which give you the variants. But tea is really high in antioxidants, especially the catechins. I'm not sure I'm saying that right, but close enough. The studies are starting to show some positive results that ingestion of the tea on a regular basis, and they're not saying go crazy and drink gallons of green tea. That's the good way to, diarrhea town, which none of us want. Never. But it is starting to show results that it could be an assist to helping to prevent the onset of type 2 diabetes. So, yeah, no, it's not actual sugar cubes, it's stevia monk fruit, and it's the Whole Earth brand. And the ingredients are erythritol, stevia leaf, natural flavors, and monk fruit extract. Oh, stevia leaf extract. And I will say, normally, I avoid stevia. It is a sweetener that I just do not generally enjoy. But this particular cube, for whatever reason, does not taste like licorice. It does not even have the hint of licorice. So, whatever they have done when they've blended it with the erythritol and the monk fruit, they managed to even out the licorice and stave off the cooling effect from the erythritol. They did it. So, pretty cool. Yeah, it is a teeny bit pricey. I can't help it because it's so attractively kitschy that I cannot resist them, though. And because they evened out those little downsides. So the little downsides of the licorice from the stevia and not having the cooling effect from the erythritol, to me, made it absolutely worth the spend. So I'm going to do the second brew on this pot. Now, other things to note. Fortunately, I am oh, I see what I did. As I was pouring over it, I could see where they actually sewed the bundle together. I will tell you, the second brew is usually milder than the first, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. And as you can see on the screen, it's every bit as colorful. It's a bit milder, but it's not because it's weaker. It's just mellowed down a little bit. So, pretty good. Awkward silence moment while I take a drink. But yeah, we had some packets too, and I can't remember why, but for some reason we don't go through them very often. I think it's because I just have not been using as much sweetener, and when I do, it's been in baking, so it's been hitting the allulose much more heavily, and really just a teeny bit of sometimes it's usually the liquid monk fruit extract. That's just to boost up the sweetness of the allulose. So, nothing that exciting. I just noticed that we don't have Shauna here this evening. That's unusual. And I didn't see her on the Patreon thing either. Either she's traveling back from that retreat, or she really got distracted for a Sunday evening. I try not to... Sorry, I'm being very rude, but the pearls are really tasty. So for loose tea, Usually the proprietor selling you the tea will have recommendations on how many brews they recommend, because each blend can be different. But normally it's 2 to 3 times. However, what they don't tell you is it's not just rebrew and then leave it in there. Yeah, she was at the crafting retreat, but usually even when she's at those retreats, she signs in. So surprised not to see her, but I guess she could be having fun with those other people. Friends in real life and missing out on the live streams. I see where we stand, but that's okay. No, I'm just going to talk about her some more because she's not here. You guys, she posted on her Facebook a piece of paper craft that she did. Oh my God, I am blown away. Her artwork is incredible. And I mean, I know she gave some of the paper craft structures that she made too out at Halloween, and they were also phenomenal. But some of the things that she's creating are, my gosh, they are so far beyond what I see many people doing. I can't believe it. But, well, I mean, I have to believe it because, well, she's showing it. She could be sleeping before work. That's probably like a very reasonable and sensible thing to do. So, yeah, so 3 times. Oh, that's right. I stopped mid-sentence on that when I got distracted talking about Shauna. So, yeah, so 2 to 3 times. What they don't tell you is you can't just leave your tea leaves in there and then rebrew them tomorrow. It's consecutive brews while they're already opened up. If you let them sit and go back overnight, they get soggy, or they sometimes leach away, or they get a little bit of the bitters from laying around. So it's got to be a brew one after the other. But that's why these little thermo flasks or thermoses are great, because then you just pour it off and it'll stay warm for like 12 hours. I always put hot water in mine before I get ready to do something like this so it stays at temperature. I can drink on this all evening and probably all overnight into the morning, so it's perfect. So it's one of those weird tea things, but honestly, if you drink tea all day long, but fair warning, if you are not someone who's accustomed to teas, they can upset your stomach. And so that is also one of the reasons that it's important to pair some with foods, especially like your dark black teas. The dark black teas especially can be very acidic and harsh on your stomach. So they really actually need something with it. Yeah, I'm really surprised. Renee mentions that we were surprised that Shauna's blender bottle didn't win the decorating contest. I think part of the reason it didn't win is because you couldn't see that video where it was rotating and then you could see the light up into it. Because that rotating sight was just spectacular. And that probably would have bumped it up. So, what questions do people have? And so the 2 crazy ketos aren't here this evening, but I'm going to talk about next week real quick, just so you guys know. I'm hoping to do a Vietnamese egg coffee, and it made me think of Joe, because he's the one who started propagating the egg coffee in our groups and sort of made it go like all wild with popularity. So I thought it was fun to explore, since I was getting into some of the more not as well known in the United States coffees, that I would bring an egg coffee to the table. And However, this is not like the egg coffee that we have with just the egg blended in. It's a layered coffee, and we'll get into the details on that. Uh, so, I will tell you actually, I think the second brew of this was better than the first. Hey Rhonda, nice to see you. Nope, 6:30 Eastern every time. Oh, grandkids are always the best. So you've never had like the regular egg coffee either, where we blend it with the egg and the butter? But this one actually, you have to. It has a couple different recipes with it. I have to. Sure. I have to make a keto sweetened condensed milk. So it is kind of indulgent, and I've just sort of decided that Sunday nights are my indulgent nights, where I have treats like a late night snack and late night coffees and teas and special treats. So, let me see. Caboodle Bry mentions that was asking for me to repeat the appropriate temperature for brewing. Now you should know that from tea to tea to tea, that temperature varies. Anywhere from 165 to boiling. Very rarely do I have teas that need boiled. But the blooming tea, 175 degrees Fahrenheit is the temperature for a good brew on it. And the warden mentions that the Vietnamese coffees they've had in the past were extremely sweet. They are. They love that sweetened condensed milk. I will say that a ketofied version is not quite as sweet, especially even because I've modified my sweetened condensed milk recipe from which one did I decide that I like the best? I think it's the one from the Big Man's World, but I've backed off the allulose quite a bit. So it's not quite as intensely sweet. It is still pretty sweet, but blended and layered with the egg on that super, super heavy, strong coffee really does it. So, and Rhonda mentions that they had the egg coffee today for the very first time. And it's really good. I like the egg in my coffee sometimes, but I find it sometimes too foamy. So that is one thing that we'll talk about next week with the egg coffee, is the differences between the regular butter egg keto coffee and a Vietnamese ketofied egg coffee. So, by the way, if you are exploring and shopping for teas and you want to know more about it, I mentioned previously that I make my little cheat sheets of notes, which, see, now you can't see them from the reflection. But I make my little cheat sheets. I had to really reduce it, because when I started typing up my notes in my document, I wound up with like 12 pages of rambling about teas and various varieties, and I just like went way off the rails and realized this is not the 2-month intensive tea course at the university, and so I backed it off quite a bit, but I do still have it all, and am glad to share or talk about any particular kind of tea. And Shelly mentions that she prefers just the butter coffee. I think I do too, if I'm going to have something in the coffee. And actually, if I'm going to have a dairy in my tea, I actually prefer butter tea. Butter tea in a turmeric tea is really nice. Oh. When I mentioned that tea is partly ritual, I even got my nice fancy linen napkin too. So I really just like enjoy the whole special specialness of it. Yeah, and Caboodle Caboodle Brie mentioned, or Caboodle Bry mentions that he never does boiling because it's too easy to get bitters, and it is, and especially with green teas, they are so easy to over extract and make bitter. And wow, I can't quite give you guys the good view of this, but it has expanded quite a lot. It's not the gorgeous bloom that I get from this Tea Bloom brand, but it has really unfurled a lot, and I can actually see the way they bundled it. I'm not disappointed with the flavor in any way, shape, or form, and I would be willing to buy this brand again. This was Kitchen Kite, and I would buy it again because the flavor is good. Visually, it's not as spectacular as many others. Yeah. So I do usually prefer plain tea, but every so often it's nice to switch it up a notch. So Renee mentions that their first job at 12 was cleaning houses for an elderly English couple, and that they broke for tea and homemade crumpets. That sounds nice. Which, by the way, you know, here in the United States, when we think of English tea, we think that they sit down and have like those big, elaborate afternoon tea events where everybody dresses up fancy with their big tea hats and big tea dresses and suits and ties and all of that. Let me tell you, don't ever go overseas and expect that to be anything but a novelty for Americans. They laugh at you in the back. That is not how they do tea. Tea is casual. It's the afternoon. It's just like a moment away to wind down, relax, have a little snack and a tea. It's much more casual. Not that there aren't tea houses and tea events, but it's not like TV. And if you have any friends in the UK, they will tell you. Especially if you have any friends from the London area. The very idea, you know, they do sell a royal tea service, but yeah, that's strictly show for tourism. Now, I will tell you that in a lot of Asian countries, especially like Singapore or Vietnam, they do have tea houses where they have very elaborate teas, the pastries and the whole very fancy setup, but you don't have to be like dressed fancy to go there. But it is quite the elaborate experience. Oh, and Caboodle Bry mentions that he thinks the presentation's not bad from the camera angle. Yeah, so, and it's not terrible. It's just not quite as fancy pants as I sometimes do get out of the other blooms. But that's okay. Some of the ones that aren't properly bundled, when that happens, the little tea leaves just float up all in there. And I'm like, well, I wish I had just used regular loose leaf in my filter. So, I can't believe she is still out there riding. Caboodle mentions that Karen is still out riding her bike. Not me. Y'all, even down here in my little studio with all the lights and everything, I'm wearing my hoodie and I have a little space heater on. You're definitely not getting me outside for the winter snow riding. It might be fun, it might be an experience, it might be great for commuting, but it is not for a Maitreya. So, I'm trying to think of anything else I might have forgotten to tell you guys about this. But other than the whole, I really dig the artistry of a tea crafter. I love that this is not something that people can manufacture. I think that makes it just like extra special, knowing that it's a work from a true artist. And I don't know if true artist from an artist, but a real artisan, someone who has passion for it, and it's not just whip it out any way you can and make a big production. They're very particular about the whole thing, and you have to apprentice. It's really quite a talent. Oh, thanks, Jerry. So, as a side note, I thought I would mention. Oh, and Renee mentions that she hates cold rides and runs. That some friends tease her for all the cold weather attire. Oh no, not me. And it's chilly. If it's chilly out, that's why I was excited to get my fancy bike riding shoe covers. And I have winter cycling gloves with the full fingers. And I wear like a jersey jacket over like 2 thermal shirts. I'm ridiculous. I do not do cold well. Oh, and Rhonda mentions that the honey container, she had shared with me a picture of a device that her brother had given her, and we did a little internet research to find out it was a vintage piece of a honey pourer. It was actually really cool. I almost might want to order one myself because it was so novel, except for I would have to put my keto syrup in it, I suppose, which I've been trying to get just right on making my own using allulose, but it's not quite there yet. I either get too much maple extract in there and then it has like that medicine taste, and let me tell you, I don't like medicine on my waffles, or it's too thick and caramely from melting down the allulose too much. So eventually I'll get it though. It's really close. The other recipe I'm working on is because I signed up, even though I knew that it was a ridiculous thing for me to do because of time constraints. When Keto Chow was recruiting for like ambassadors of their product and stuff, I just love Keto Chow so much. I thought, why the heck not? It is a staple in my household. We have Keto Chow for like months. We could feed our family and the neighbors. We really love it. I could go on pondering a Keto Chow creamy fast, which if I keep doing this on Sunday nights, I might need to. But I signed up for that ambassador thing, and I am bad about checking my emails, and I saw finally a note that they are doing a recipe thing again. So I started working on one today, and it's not quite there. Although Sonia, who was on here earlier, and I don't know if she's still here, commented on my post about it in another group. And we thought perhaps it could be, instead of a nice little light airy cake, which is what I had in my mind, more of a sweet bagel. So I might try toasting it up tomorrow with some cream cheese and see how that works out. Sorry, I don't mean to point at you all rudely in the camera, but yeah. I also might try that same batter again and try to waffle it, which is why I would need one of those vintage syrup pourers. They're really cool. They have 2 parts, and the bottom is like a glass, and what I've been told is you're supposed to warm up that glass so that when you put the top piece on it, it keeps the syrup warm and melted so it doesn't recrystallize. With the allulose maple syrup, you don't really have to worry about that. So, but it might still be nice. And Renee mentions that as humans, we all need treats in our lives. to help keep our serotonin levels up. And I agree with that 100%. And I think that's one of the reasons that I do enjoy my elaborate coffees or my fancy teas or things like that. So this is where I need a second person on my live stream so that while I have to do things like take a drink, someone else can fill the time like Joe and Rachel do. But so, and Christine mentions that she's excited about the Vietnamese coffee talk next week because she's loving the egg and butter in her coffee. Yeah, I agree. One thing I haven't figured out is that I do need to use an electric whisk for it, and that's kind of loud for a live stream. So I might do the whisking early, but I'm going to see how that goes with letting it sit for a few minutes. So. And Rhonda mentions that she thought she should have maybe signed up for an ambassador thing as well. I think you could. I'm sure if we can find the link, you would be able to sign up. They don't really ask you to do much of anything. The occasional post and help out with like contribute really. And I'm pretty sure those of us here, most of us are pretty enthusiastic about the keto chow. Oh, will you ever get to meet my other household members? I don't know, maybe. We'll work on it, but everyone kind of likes to do their own thing, and that's fine. I will say that I know my 19-year-old will never, ever, ever, ever come on the camera with me. They are super protective. Because I've tried to encourage them. I was like, why don't you come sit with me and talk? It'll be fun. And especially because they definitely are like a carbon copy. So it's pretty funny. I find it funny. I don't think they really do so much. But so yeah, and Christina mentions that she knows what I mean about the egg being too foamy. But I have to laugh when I say that because I know it's not just me, because I saw Nisha Berry making the egg coffee one time, and she scoops some of the foam out and then adds more coffee to it. I refuse. I worked hard for that foam, so I just deal with having too much foam, and then I have more coffee later. Which is probably me being ridiculous. But what are you going to do? That's the story of my life all the time. And that's why everybody has to put up with my little shenanigans. So. Oh. See? Gaming. Gaming upstairs. So anyways. I mentioned lost track again. So I thought also some of you, if you saw my video earlier about my previous video from a couple I think it was last week on Genius Games, I really wanted to just give them another shout out here and say, if you haven't played board games before, I really recommend that some of their games are ones that you check out, because they're really easy to pick up, and they actually do such a good job with writing their rules. And most board game influencers give really good, clear tutorials on them, so it's really easy to pick up, and they're just such a good company because of the way they educate children and adults too, evidently. So I really want to just give an extra shout out about that. So I think I did learn something new on YouTube. I found where I could edit my page, and I added other favorite channels, and 2 of them are people who do board game tutorials and reviews on their channel. And between the 2 of them, Rodney from Watch It Played and Rado, they do such good tutorials. Anything you want to learn, they're out there. Yeah, probably so. Renee says the fact that we all have our quirks is why we're here, and it's probably true. And I think probably most of us are just a smidge on the nerd side. And I would haphazard to guess that finance and IT are probably high careers amongst the people in this channel. So, which also, I should mention, I don't have it down here because I didn't think that I would really need it. My teapot is still really warm. But if you are pouring off from your loose leaf tea, and after you've done your multiple brews and you've put stuff in, if you want to keep some warm in an actual teapot like this, take your infuser out, keep your clear tea in there. They actually make teapot warmers, and they're just little small circular pieces, and you keep an actual tea light in there, and that's what keeps it warm. You can also use a coffee mug warmer, but you have to be really careful with those because they can singe the bottom of your teapot. So, yep, IT and medical. IT, medical, and yeah, I think finance goes in there too. So, I was surprised to hear tonight that Bronson works in IT. I don't know why, but I thought that was pretty cool. And it does remind me that you can't really, that it's hard to be a 100% full-time athletic trainer, that you often have to have like basically 2 jobs. And Renee mentions that the medical folk are a tad twisted. That is true. I'm just going to tell you, I know many medical personnel that are in the kink scene. My goodness. And they are the most extreme. And also partiers. I was always surprised by that. But, you know, you gotta get away from some stuff somehow. So, oh, a retired chef turned farmer from Du Jour 79. Oh, that is super cool. That's like actually really incredibly cool. What kind of farming, if you don't mind sharing? So, and I actually think that actually the retired anything turned farmer is not as uncommon in the keto community as one might think. I think a lot of people become so invested in the good health from the farming industry, especially when we get into our livestock, that does happen, that they decide to go that direction. Oh, and Renee mentions that the Big C has driven a lot of people in the medical field a little extra wonky. I'll tell you, for sure, my brother is a respiratory therapist, and it is rough times for them. I can just say I don't know how he is continuing to do it every day, but he is, not without a lot of dark humor, very twisted dark humor, and I think that's actually part of the trade, really, and it's just escalated a tad. He did tell me that he feels like soon, if things don't start improving, that he has to, he's maybe going to take up the job at the liquor store on the corner by his house. And I said, I know he's not, but, you know, you do what you got to do. So. Du Jour 79 says, I know them, but not by that name. Urban farming in Columbus. Gosh, now I'm so curious. Do market garden. Okay. I do know who you are, DuJour79. Oh, I'm so excited. You guys, DuJour79 is a person that I know here in Columbus, and they are the most awesome person I have met in a long time. They are so talented with gardening and farming, and they actually have done like a lot of initiatives on urban gardening space that were super cool, and I just they're a delight to see. Also, I introduced them to Keto Chow because, that's how I am. Because, it's like I've become like a little Keto Chow dealer, but not on purpose. It just, because it's so delicious. So I, tell people, if you need some convenience, here's the product. It's so good. So, and DuJour sharing that with their farming for their chickens, they feed non-GMO and soy-free feed. That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm really looking forward to like when they are heavy egg producing, because I know that they will be high quality. Yeah. And Renee mentions that the respiratory therapists have her respect. I agree. Man, they are just killing it out there and working so hard. I know that we have, I think it's in the Keto Chow group, a respiratory therapist who's been traveling doing emergency fill-in and care, and that's amazing. Oh, I wouldn't object if DuJour wanted to come and hang out and do a crazy live stream with me. Maybe or maybe once we're all in a little bit more free time in the spring, I could go out and we can live stream by the chickens or something hilarious like that. Because, I'm sure that'll work out well. Hmm. So, oh, and can I tell you something awesome about Miriam and Chris? I was whining that I was struggling with some technical issues on this live stream, and Miriam actually was like, "Hey, Maitreya, I was not joking when Chris said he would help people with their live streams." And then she set up a conference call, so he is willing to sit down and actually talk to me one-on-one to help me with my technical woes, because it's a lot to learn all at once. Can you believe it? They have no reason to have to to put out all of that extra, and yet they are always going that extra mile for people. So how awesome is that? So maybe by next week, I'll suddenly I'll have more knowledge, and it'll still be this crazy little rambling live stream, but maybe I'll have learned some new tricks. So I don't know. I was just so pleased that today we actually started the live stream and didn't actually have to start like 3 live streams before we actually got it working right. To me, that was awesome success. Yeah. So aside from the Vietnamese coffee next week, what other things do people want to talk about? I know that we usually get a lot of good conversation there. So I'm just curious, what other topics do we want to talk about? What about for video releases, continued content? Because, I could talk about like a different board game for at least 400 streams, because that's what's up on my shelves. But I know that eventually I will put another Zwift ride out there, and I know that I do have a lot of different chats, but really the channel, while yes, it's about me, it's really not for me. I mean, it is for me, but it's really also for you. I really put myself out here so that we could connect more, and that's what I really enjoy. is the discourse between us all. So it really matters more to me to find out things that you might be curious about, where you want maybe an extra hand up researching or things like that. So yeah, I probably could, because I don't think my crochet stuff is coming back. I didn't get a good answer on my appeal for my little F-bomb cloth. I can't believe that the people got all hurt about that. Okay, I will work on some of that. I will tell you, though, that there will be at least the keto crate thing, because I heard Autumn mention that she received hers, and so that means mine is coming soon, and I cannot wait to tear open and take and see what I got in there, so that, all of the awful things I can give to everybody else. Oh, I would love to talk about Bulletproof Coffee. One of the things that I'm working on is trying to figure out a good way to get something up close, because I've got like the distance camera, but for something up close where you can really see. I mean, I see when people cook, they get in there so you can really get a good view of what's happening with the food. So I really want to find a good answer to that. And Du jour 79 mentions that they have liked my crochet work in the past, which I'm really pleased as punch to hear. It's a fun, it's a great hobby. And then the warden asked if I do plushies, and the answer is I've done a few, but they're not my favorite. And I have a Snorlax in progress that I wanted to make like so bad, but for whatever reason, they get into some extra tight and really getting in there, looking at the stitches, and for some reason it becomes kind of a slog. And like, I've been working on that damn Snorlax for like a year and a half. So do I do plushies? I can, but for whatever reason they don't excite me. I didn't even put up a Christmas tree, but I really want to make like this Christmas tree skirt I saw. What I really love doing, though, is wearables. So like sweaters and skirts and crazy crochet shorts. And I made that dress. Actually, I have 2 dresses now that I just dig, and I've started a 3rd one. Those are great. I don't think the thumbs down were because of the language. I don't think anybody really cares that much about that part. I think the thumbs down are coming just from your average haters, and we actually had the first time you guys are big enough now that you had like someone griefing in the chat. Like, what was that about? That was so weirdly offensive, and I'm not like an easily offensible person. So, I was like, who's texting me during my live stream? And it's actually like it's a YouTube notice that that a barbecue channel has put out something. I'm all set for the barbecue for today. And Renee mentioned some winter neck covers are needed for the hounds. Oh, well, I have seen some patterns for that, but I haven't actually made one. I've been wanting to make like a little dog coat for my dog, because even though he has 7 inches of fur, he still gets cold outside in the winter, probably because he's so small. But I will look and see if I've seen the neck covers. I'm pretty sure I've seen patterns, and if so, we can probably work some out. I don't know. Lately, I've been really fried, and I haven't been keeping up with all of the stuff that I've been wanting to keep up with. I don't know if I got like a little cold, or if it's probably just actually the work stress, because I've been doing 2 jobs, and then part of one of the job was that ridiculous training. Oh, and the warden says they're having smoked chuck roast after this live. for pulled beef. Man, I've done the smoked chuck roast a couple times now. Oh, so good. It has been fantastic. Oh, yeah, we'll do some outdoor cooking. That is part of the reason for the need for a different camera, though. I tried to go out there a little bit and it just didn't work. It just was not right. So I'm not sure what I need to do, and I need to do some research on there. Weirdly, if it's not actively snowing, I'd like to go out and do an outdoor cook on the Blackstone, because I always see people who put them away for the winter, and or they're constantly dealing with rust and stuff, and I think that is just like crazy. And the warden asks if I do my own tea blends, and the answer is no. I found it to be overwhelming to do that, which is weird because I like all that fussy, crafty stuff. But I made like when I tried it, pretty much I made everything taste like soap. So I decided that it was not my talent. Oh, and Dujour mentioned smoked cheeses. Absolutely, we can do that. And that is something that I do more often in the cold weather because it prevents your smoker from getting too warm. Dujour79, if you look up Slapstick Keto on YouTube, he actually, somewhere in his videos, also has a tutorial on smoked cheeses. And Renee mentions they've got a beef top round going low and slow in the oven. So, oh, and they're making some Prasik skinny pork sausages in the air fryer for meal prep. Oh, that sounds delicious. Ooh, now that you mention it, I have a smoked sausage left in the fridge. I was saving it because it's so good, but it was a little pricey to order, so I didn't know if I'd be ordering again soon. Yeah, I love cooking on the Blackstone. It's my favorite. It's so convenient. But yeah, that's what. Yeah, Sharon, I agree. I don't think it's an impediment to be outside. I know that it's uncomfortable and cold, but if you get good footwear, and you keep your equipment under the eaves of your house, obviously not right up against the siding. You don't want to burn your house, but our stuff is up there anyways, with about a foot away from the house, and that's plenty of room to prevent the splatter on the house and also to prevent the siding from any damage. And that's the same for the smoker as well. Actually, both of the smokers. So yeah, I actually am making a special thing tomorrow. I hope it works out. If it does, I'm going to post pictures because it's going to be hilarious. And also, I hope delicious. Much more delicious than the original. But I'm not going to tell anybody what it is because I don't know whether anyone that lives here is watching the live stream, and I've told them it was a surprise. But I'm so amused with myself and this ridiculous that I'm going to do tomorrow. I only have like three meetings, so I have all this extra time because last week I had to do my regular job and then that 8-hour training, but my contract with the company is a strict 40 hours, so I banked my time so that I could take partial days off to do like house things during the week. If I really wanted to, I could push back and be like, no, pay me, but I'd actually rather do the whole banking of the time and take that extra slack just to do the things that I couldn't do because the hours were so intense. You know, take care and make sure the house is all clean, do some more prep work do some recipe experiment, learn some skills for the stream. So oh, we're talking about some of the temperatures for the low and slow. And Sharon mentions that they grill outside year-round as well. So let's see. Oh, and they were and Caboodle Bry was asking about the time and temperature. So, and Renee mentions that they did theirs for 275 for 75 minutes. About recommended 25 minutes per pound until it reaches 130. So, yep. Oh, and Teresa mentions our favorite jalapeno poppers that I think pretty much most of us from the Two Crazy Ketos have like a little addictive relationship with. Man, cheese stuffed bacon wrapped jalapenos are the best. Now I don't know what to eat tomorrow because of all the options. I'm like, oh, maybe I could have stuffed jalapenos and smoked sausage and my special surprise dish and my keto chow creamy. But all of those things in one day is maybe a little overdoing it. So, So anytime, if you think of other things that you want me to go through, I did take a mental list here of the things that we talked about, and I will make sure that I start working on some of those. But feel free to reach out to me. I think all of you know how to get a hold of me on Facebook. So also, if you want to email radicalgeek42@gmail.com, that's another option. So I'm easy to get a hold of. Some of you have my digits, so you can always just use the phone. That's fine too. And yeah, Renee mentions that the goat cheese is delicious in the jalapeno poppers, and I've tried that too. That came actually, the inspiration for that for me came from Hungry Heath and the Warden, who are both on here now. They are fabulous recipe creators, and I find that very inspiring. It really encourages me to get back into the kitchen and play with some of the recipes. So, oh, and Caboodle Bry mentions that he has some of those mammoth, ginormous jalapenos to do the coastal ABTs with for the mandatory Meaty Monday. I'm sorry, the ABT name always gives me the giggles, like I am 12 years old. So, for anybody here, I think almost everybody knows, but not everybody, atomic buffalo turds. I'm sorry. You have to Google the recipe for that. It doesn't sound appealing, but they are actually quite delicious. So, and with that, I have rambled on and we have gone completely astray. I hope that those of you who enjoyed tea tonight had a really nice time, and that you learned some new tea facts, or at least have some good tea questions to ask in the future. And I look forward to talking to you again next week, where we do our Vietnamese egg coffee, and I do my video releases on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So should be pretty good. Oh, except for before I sign off, Hungry Heath says that nut butters were also great in jalapenos. I'm just gonna say it probably is, but I don't know about trying it. That's just one of those things that's out there in the unusual flavor profiles that I question how long it's going to take me before I'm willing to actually jump in and try that. So, yeah. All right. Oh, no worries about being late. There's no rhyme or reason to being timely for this live stream, but I'm glad that you got to participate, and I was super excited to see you because I really I miss interacting with you, and so we'll have to get together soon. And I actually have a couple things for you as well. So, and that's for Du jour 79. I look forward to talking to you again, Sonia. And tomorrow morning, see, I have too many things to eat tomorrow, so I'll have to spread it out over the week. But tomorrow morning, I'm going to try that experiment and I will post out the results. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of the PB sauce either, especially not on my ground beef. So for reals, it's 8 o'clock. I adore talking to you guys. Give yourself some grace. Enjoy all the things, but I am going to sign us off now. So I will talk to you all again soon. Thank you, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on Watch Autumn. Bye-bye.